Welcome to the Elevated Woman's Podcast, your guide to optimal health and confidence. I'm Dr. Ade Akindipe, family nurse practitioner and women's health coach. I help women in midlife reset their bodies and reclaim their confidence. So this is the place where real talk meets real solutions. No quick fixes, no fluff, just the tools, strategies, and stories you need to break free from stubborn weight gain, balancing your hormones, and stepping into your healthiest self yet. Whether you're navigating perimenopause, menopause, or simply just tired of feeling like your body's working against you, then you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, so this episode is going to be loaded, so bear with me. I'm taking my time because I think it's so important for women that are navigating midlife changes and those hormonal shifts to really understand what is happening. And I'm going to have you walk away today with 5 strategies that you can start to work on to start to calm that midlife fire, taming that inflammation and restoring energy. You ready? Okay. So if you've ever been told you have fatigue, you're tired, weight gain, brain fog, and you're told it's just part of getting older, I want you to challenge that story. What if this isn't decline? What if this is data? What if your body isn't breaking down, but it's trying to get your attention? So this episode is about overcoming those hidden hormone saboteurs that show up as inflammation. And we're going to dive deeper into what this is, that quiet fire that can drain your energy, dull your focus, and make you feel stuck in someone else's body. That's what it feels like. So we'll talk about inflammation, how it gets out of balance, why it matters, and those 5 powerful ways to start rewriting that story physically, mentally, and hormonally. Hormones aren't the problem. So let's start with when the fire doesn't go out. I hear this story. Okay, this is just a typical story of a woman that comes in to see me. She sits across from me and she says, I don't understand it. I've cleaned up my diet. I'm walking more. I even go to bed earlier. All the strategies we talk about. And still, I wake up feeling heavy, puffy, tired. My clothes fit differently. My brain feels foggy. It's like my body is stuck in molasses. Just you feel like you're just sticky. It's just not working. What used to work doesn't work anymore. And often she would have gone to her provider and her provider will say your labs look normal. Maybe her thyroid was checked, her cholesterol is okay. But when we start to uncover the layers, we look at inflammation markers, then we start to see it. It's not that her body is failing her, it's protecting her. It's been living in this low, slow burn for years, from stress, from poor sleep, debt, overtraining, emotional exhaustion, the all or nothing cycle of dieting, right? So once we calm that fire by supporting gut health, healthy stomach, a healthy digestion, steadying her blood sugar, giving her body safety instead of another plan to fix it, then things start to shift. So it doesn't happen overnight. We start to peel back the layers, looking at her history and trying to rewrite some of that. Then she can start to wake up with clear head. Her mood is more stable. The scale finally starts to catch up. But more importantly, she doesn't feel trapped in her own skin anymore. And it can be amazing to see women actually get through that transformation. So that's the part we don't talk often enough about, that invisible weight of inflammation. And that's what we're unpacking today, how it sneaks in, what it does to your hormones, and how to finally quiet it so your body can get back to doing what it needs to do, which is heal. So inflammation, what is inflammation? Inflammation is not bad. I know you probably have heard about it, maybe on social media, maybe your doctor has talked about it, but what is it? So it's biology doing its job. It's like the first responder to some kind of problem that happens. When the ambulance shows up, that's kind of like what it is. It's a repair team. Inflammation often gets this bad reputation, but it's actually one of the smartest things that our body does. It's like your alarm system. When you get a cut, you catch a cold, or you push hard in a workout, the alarms go up. Okay. Your blood flow increases, your immune cells, all the cool cells come in, they rush in, and chemicals called cytokines spark the cleanup system. The area gets a little bit red. You might feel some pain. Maybe it's a little sore. That's healing in motion. Then, when that job is done, the alarm shuts off. That's good inflammation. That's normal inflammation. Okay. Short, sharp, purposeful, it's over. The trouble begins when that alarm doesn't go away. It doesn't get shut off day after day. Small sparks, stress that never resolves, processed foods, poor sleep, even unprocessed emotions that we just kind of shove back in the back of our brain and we try to get rid of it. They keep tripping the system, that alarm system, over and over again. So the body keeps sending out those same repair signals, even though there's nothing left to fix. Okay. That's what we call chronic inflammation. So it's quieter, but it's constant. So you're not feeling it like a little cut, but in the background, you have this low level, low grade inflammation. So it's like a silent hum all the times in your tissues and your cells. So this is what we call inflammaging, whichever way you want to call it. It's that slow burn that erodes your vitality over time as you get older. So it's not that aging is the problem. It's that steady background inflammation that we talked about that makes aging so bad sometimes when women don't deal with the root cause and end up like constantly inflamed. So now we can't talk about all of this without discussing everything else around hormones, right? We might have talked about it in other episodes, but estrogen, your progesterone, cortisol, and insulin, they start speaking different dialects too. It's like, okay, suddenly everything, you're doing everything right, but nothing is clicking. So even though you have that natural decline in your hormones, you already have that risk of inflammation as those hormones, those protective hormones start to decline. So add hormone decline to chronic inflammation, of course, this is probably a recipe for disaster. So if you are listening to this right now, it's basically if you've had something like this happen with you, you're relating to what I'm saying. Your body has adapted to survive this constant alarm. It's been protecting you for maybe decades, right? The work now isn't to punish, okay, by dieting constantly or trying to figure out another plan. It's to quiet the noise, clear the static, and remind your system it's safe to stand down, right? It's okay. You don't need to keep setting off the alarm. So, the tricky thing about inflammation is that you can't always see it. There's no rash, there's no fever, nothing that screams you're inflamed. It's more like a slow static, like we talked about, okay? The good news is that sometimes you can measure it. You just have to ask for the right labs. And we'll go through some of the labs that you can ask your doctor for. They go beyond the standard labs that they might check. So here's some of the labs that you can ask your doctor for. And I'll try to make it as simple as possible. The first one is called high sensitivity C-reactive protein, or hs-CRP. Think of this as your body's smoke alarm. When it's high, there's a fire smoldering somewhere, maybe from stress, from poor sleep, or gut issues. Interleukin 6, or IL-6, this one tells your immune system to stay ready. So it's supposed to switch off after you heal. But when this stays elevated, your body acts like it's in crisis mode, right? Like there's something always going on. The other one is tubular necrosis factor alpha, or TNF-alpha, the chemical messenger that fans the flames. So it keeps your immune system on alert even when there's nothing to fight, wearing down your cells over time. Hemoglobin A1C and fasting insulin. These show how your blood sugars behave over time, maybe over the last 3 months. When your sugar levels swing up and down all day, it adds fuel to the fire and keeps inflammation burning. Then there's another one called protein glycation. Let me break this one down, okay, because it sounds technical, but it's actually very simple. Every time sugar moves through your bloodstream, it has a job to deliver energy to your cells. You eat, blood sugar rises, insulin comes, it takes it into your cells for energy. But when there's more sugar than your cells can use, let's say after years of blood sugar swings, skipped meals, or constantly snacking, that extra sugar starts to stick to proteins in your blood and tissues. What happens over time? These proteins become glycated. Over time, these sticky, damaged proteins form compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGE for short. And yes, the name fits, age. So it's a bit like what happens when you caramelize onions or you toast bread. That sugar binds to the proteins and create that golden crust. Becomes really sticky. So now imagine that same process happening inside your body, just on a microscopic level. It's happening in your body. So what starts to show up on your body? Your skin becomes less elastic, wrinkles, sagging skin, dull skin, dry skin, joints and your tendons get stiffening, they stiffen up, you get aches, slower recovery after workouts. Does this sound familiar? It does for me. Blood vessels, they lose their easy flow. They become more hardened, higher blood pressure. You have reduced circulation. Glycation, like we just talked about, also ramps up what we call oxidative stress, which keeps inflammation alive and well. So when we talk about lowering inflammation, balancing blood sugars, it isn't just about weight or cravings. It's about literally protecting the structure of your body. So keeping blood sugar steady means fewer sticky proteins, less, internal caramelization like we talked about, and slower aging from the inside out. Okay. When any of those inflammatory markers run high, it isn't your body scolding you. It's saying, hey, I've been working really hard to protect you, but I need something different. I need something different to happen now. So here's where we need to start reclaiming the story of your body. Your body isn't a problem to solve. It's a record of everything you've survived. So I tell women, you've gone through life, you've maybe carried children, you've maybe worked 2 jobs and try to support your family, because these are things this is life, right? So every scar, every stretch mark, every sleepless night, every diet you tried in desperation, your body remembers this. But it's not punishment that's going to solve that. It's not failure. That's just your history. But now you get to decide how the next chapter ends. The first half of life was about endurance, maybe showing up, taking care of everyone, holding it together, having children. But this time, as you start to elevate, it's about strength. It's about clarity, vitality, and trusting yourself again and feeling good in your body. Okay. We don't have to accept the ticking time bombs of aging. I was reading Dr. Vonda Wright's book, and she talked about the ticking time bombs of aging. And it just sparked this aha moment in me, like, yeah, aging isn't the problem. It's how we age, and you get to shape that. Even if you have the genetic predisposition to have high blood pressure or to be overweight, you can reshape that. You have the power to change that. The environment, you have that ability. Absolutely. You don't have to say the slow weight gain, the brain fog, the aches is your fate. Those are invitations to change how we live, not punish ourselves for getting older. So it's time to shift from how do I fight my body? How do I partner with it? So now I want us to shift. Now that we know what's happening with inflammation as you get older, we talked about your history before you got here. Let's talk about how to now cool the fire and reclaim your hormone health back, okay? So, number one thing is testing. We can't just guess. Now, I will say, even though it's important to test, it's also good to look at your symptoms, writing them down, taking note, tracking patterns. Very, very important. Your body leaves clues long before symptoms get loud. So, we talked about those markers like CRP, interleukin 6, TNF-alpha, right? But numbers aren't the verdict. They are a conversation with your body. So I want you to ask yourself this. When was the last time you had labs drawn beyond a basic panel? What's one question you can ask your doctor today at your next visit to get more data? How comfortable are you with knowing your numbers? And what emotions come up when you think about testing? These are real things, because we in a separate episode, I think it was episode 2, where we talked about discovering the root of your story. So understanding how you got here is very important. And sometimes that might bring up some emotion, right? All the things that happened that make you feel like this is how you got here. Maybe there was a lot of stress. Maybe there were some strenuous relationships. Maybe there's some things that you've pushed to the back of your mind that has made you so stressed regardless. It impacts your sleep, but it's become so routine that you don't even realize it. So a lot of times when I'm coaching my clients, we really stay in this discovery phase for some time. Sometimes I'm working with women over a month trying to do that, but sometimes you need more time to really start to peel back those layers of how you got here. Because if you don't uncover that, it's impossible to move forward, right? So here's homework with this first thing. We talked about testing, right? Uncovering how you understand your numbers, because it's important for not just you to get these labs done, but to you understand what they mean. And we've already talked about some of those labs, what those inflammatory markers are. So request a copy of your latest labs and highlight anything related to inflammation, blood sugar, or thyroid. These are often the labs that signal that there's low grade inflammation. And I'll bring your attention to that blood sugar. Often you might go to a doctor and they'll look at your labs and they'll say it's normal. But if you find that you are on the upper end of that normal, higher end of that normal blood sugar range, that might be a clue that you have underlying inflammation. When you are fasting and you're getting your blood drawn and your numbers are 98, 99, 100, not had anything to eat overnight and you're fasting and your blood sugars are up that like that, even though it's within the normal range, it's not optimal. Your blood sugars should be less. So that's a clue that I look at. So it's not just getting the labs, it's going to someone who's going to analyze it, looking at your whole picture, right? As someone who is maybe in midlife, who is navigating perimenopause or menopause, those are tiny clues that something might be going on. Thyroid, when your TSH or your thyroid stimulating hormone is on the higher end of the normal range, but your T3 actual thyroid hormone is on the lower end of normal, because these are actually, they work in opposite, your TSH and your T3, and there'll be probably more episodes to dive into that. But these are markers that start to tell us or give us clues that there is an alarm going off chronically in our body that we need to deal with, okay? If it's been more than a year, schedule a functional panel or discuss those markers with a provider. And I say functional because just again, looking at the labs and then looking at how you appear, that it needs to go with the symptoms. So if you have optimal thyroid function, you shouldn't have those symptoms of hypothyroidism. So clinically, what do you look like in the setting of these labs? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Start a health clarity note in your phone. I highly recommend this. Date your labs. Add one line about how you felt at that time. This process takes time, but it is one way for you to really advocate for yourself when you go see a provider, right? You have all the data, and hopefully the person that you go to will understand. And that's what we do in our 60-minute clarity session. It's trying to find clarity about where to go next. Okay. If you're interested in that, it's 60 minutes. It's free. And I'm happy to talk to you about those labs and where you should go. So, how to track progress? Use a simple scale from like 1 to 10 for your energy, your mood, and your sleep each week. Sometimes you'll see improvement before it shows up on the labs, right? Okay. Number 2, I want you to focus on eating to calm the fire and not restriction. A lot of women often end up starving themselves. Even if they're fasting, there's a way to fast, and we will talk about that in another episode. But often women are not fueling their cells, their tissues, their body to function properly. We're starving. It's like almost punishing yourself. So each meal is a message. Anti-inflammatory fats like olive oil, avocado, salmon, flax seeds, they soothe the immune system. Colorful plants, they feed the gut bacteria that release anti-inflammatory compounds. Protein repairs tissues so your body can rebuild instead of reacting. Now, in the show notes, there's going to be some ideas of where you can start when it comes to nutrition, because there is a certain way women in midlife should eat so that you can fuel your body. So food isn't something to fear. There are so many diets out there, from anti-inflammatory to keto, and it's not that any of these diets aren't good for you, but it needs to be tailored. It needs to be very specific for you. And often, we're copying what somebody else has done because they dropped 50 pounds. You want to jump on the same wagon and do the same thing. It's one of the most direct ways to tell your body you're safe. So eating to fuel your body keeps the inflammation low. So what I want you to do after this podcast is ask yourself, what foods leave you feeling grounded versus bloated or tired. If you're paying attention to this, you'll know, you can tell, wow, I feel great after eating that. I'm not so hungry. That's what often women will say. I never knew that this is how I would feel after eating beans. And like I said, it's different for everyone. What might work for one person may not work for you. Sometimes maybe even taking food sensitivity tests might be great to start with so that you can get more answers into what works for your body or not. The other thing I want you to ask yourself is, are your meals mostly built from color or convenience? Now, in this day and age, we want to grab the first thing we can find because we are busy. So this is the stage I feel is really tricky for women because of how we just navigate life. So, and this is where I tell women to spend time as well, not just the discovery, but also navigating how life is and making the time. There are certain things that you will have to make time for, whether that's food prepping, whether that's tracking your meals, making sure that your plate is full of food that's going to fuel your body. It isn't going to be perfect every single time, but most times you should be getting your proteins, you should be getting healthy fats in there, colorful vegetables that have great antioxidants that also help reduce inflammation. Ask yourself this also: what's one small addition that could make your next meal more anti inflammatory? I always say it that it doesn't have to happen overnight. Doesn't have to happen overnight. What is one thing you can start today that will make a difference, that will start to move the needle, right? And it's in those consistency of choosing the right foods for your body that's going to help you keep the weight off in the long run, not those quick fixes diets, okay? So now, this is your homework. Add one new color to your plate each day for 1 week. One new color. Keep a 3-day food and feeling, okay? I want you to jot down just for 3 days, what foods you are eating, how you are feeling, because that can really, for women, it can change depending on the day, right? Our hormones are kind of all over the place. How are you feeling? What kinds of foods are you craving and what are you eating? Jot it down, what you ate and how your energy feels, how your digestion feels, or your mood, right? Then I also want you to swap out one processed oil because there's different foods out there. If you eat out a lot, you may not be sure how the food is cooked, which is why I recommend a lot of women try to eat at home as much as possible, or ask the menu or ask the kitchen where you go to, how is this made? It's important. Swap processed oils, the corn, the canola, the soybean for extra virgin olive oil. Now start to track how you feel, your digestion, bloating, afternoon energy levels after a week of adding more color, diversity to your food. I can tell you, you will feel the difference. Now, let's move to the next thing, movement. I hear it from women all the time. I don't have time for movement. I'm too busy. We look at movement as punishment. Like, I have to go to the gym and run on the treadmill for hours and it's boring. But movement can be so amazing. Movement is a privilege. The fact that we're not made to be sedentary. We're made to move our bodies. Muscle releases anti-inflammatory messengers called myokines, and they also help stabilize our blood sugar. Strength, mobility, and recovery. These are the trifecta that keep inflammation down and resilience high. After a great workout where I'm doing power yoga or I'm doing strength training, it makes me feel amazing. Sometimes I'm actually tired before I do my exercise and I feel amazing afterwards. So movement isn't about fixing your body. It's about preserving your freedom to live fully. This is about you in your midlife years and beyond, being energetic, being able to pick up things, being able to go from a sitting to a standing position. You see how this is not all about just weight? This is about longevity, calming that inflammation that makes you age even faster. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Think about what type of movements leave you feeling restored instead of drained. Sitting for hours and hours actually makes you feel tired. I know if I've had a busy day and I haven't gotten up in a while, I can feel the difference. I'm actually more tired than when I don't exercise. Than when I exercise. How can you add small bursts of motion on the days you don't work out? So often we think that, we've done the workout for the day. That's it. I can sit for the rest of the day. Movement needs to be constant throughout the day. Can you take the stairs in between? Can you walk from one desk to the other? Can you go for a walk after work? So it needs to be constant. So you can do things like counting your steps, get a smartwatch where you can see how many steps you've taken throughout the day. The technology is there for us to be able to do this, right? So be aware of how you're moving, how you're eating. If you reframe exercise as training for future freedom, then imagine all the possibilities. What could change? It becomes part of your routine when you realize this is what has to happen so that I can pick up my grandkids when I have grandchildren, so that I can stay out of the nursing home, so that I can feed myself when I'm 70, because you're not, losing your muscle mass. You're not losing your mobility. Your joints aren't getting all stiff, right? So this is your homework now. I want you to schedule 2 strength-based workouts and 2 recovery sessions. So stretching, yoga, walking per week. I'm actually doing something like that right now, and it's amazing. 2 strength-based workouts, 2 recovery sessions per week. Okay, that's number 1. Then I want you to take 1 10-minute walk after each meal. Well, not after each meal, after 1 meal each day. That helps lower your blood sugar and calms inflammation. I also want you to write down 1 physical thing you want to be able to do at age 70. If it's hiking, dancing, playing with your grandchildren, then train for that. Okay. How to track your progress. Now, keep just a simple body log. I have the Peloton app, and it's great because it keeps a log of all the exercises that I've done, so it's easier, but you don't have to have anything like that. Just track it, note how you feel after it. How's your energy, your recovery time? Are you sore? So you should feel recharged and not wrecked. If you are feeling wrecked and really tired, then it's time to uncover what else might be going on with you. Okay. Now, let's talk about rewiring from stress to safety. I've talked about stress in other episodes. I'm not going to go deeper into this, but we talked about the cortisol hormone, the stress hormone that keeps inflammation levels high if it's not controlled. So looking at ways you can intentionally lower your stress. Stress is inevitable. It's everywhere, right? All around us. This is real life. We're busy. We've got multiple things that we're tracking. Even exercise, sometimes if you're overdoing it, can cause stress. So small intentional pauses, deep breathing, grounding, laughter, lower your inflammation levels and reset your stress axis. Okay. So it's not that, don't look at it as rest. You need to earn it. No, it's biological. You have to rest. So being still, being quiet, getting the phones out of the way, these are ways to recalibrate. Like I said, I love yoga. I feel like yoga is a great way. Prayer, meditation. Here are some coaching prompts for you. What are the first signs you're slipping into go mode again? Think about it. When you come back from vacation and 2 days after, you feel like you're kind of like back to square one, right? So sometimes you need a vacation from the vacation. What are the first signs that you're slipping into it again? Is it the sleep? Is it how you're eating? Think about that. Where can you carve 5 minutes of stillness in your day? Like realistically, that you can take some time away and be still. Is it waking up early in the morning so that you have the time for yourself uninterrupted? There's no children, there's no husband, there's nobody. It's time set aside for you to be able to be still. What does feeling safe in your body actually feel like for you? Think about this. This is real. Then I want you to practice 1 2-minute box breathing session. So it's basically taking a deep breath in, holding it for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4, and holding it for 4. Doing it twice a day will really help. And then end your day with no screens. This is your wind down time. Having like 10 minutes of quiet, journaling, stretching, and try to eat at least 1 meal a day without multitasking. Trying to eat and do other things can really also increase your stress level. And then notice how you feel, how you're sleeping, mood, your cravings, how productive you are. How is that energy shift at work? You may start to notice you're more productive, you're getting things done faster. Even multitasking can be a little bit easier because you are taking the time to pause, to fuel your body, to move your body. That way you can show up better for what really matters. Okay. So when inflammation is under control, your cells repair and regenerate better. You have your healthy powerhouse of your cells called the mitochondria. Your blood vessels are flexible. Your blood pressure drops. That's what longevity looks like. So you're not aging out of vitality, okay? You're evolving into wisdom and strength. So this second half of your life isn't about staying the same. It's about living more consciously. And when all of this is all done, you can start to see weight coming down, your skin glowing, and all those other things that you want, depending on what your goals start to fall into place, okay? So what story have you been telling yourself about aging? And do you actually believe it? What would thriving at 70 look like for you in detail? How can you start living that story right now? Not later, right now. This is the time to start, not when you get older. So write your new aging narrative. Okay, one paragraph that starts with the next decade of my life will be defined by ... whatever that looks like for you. Take a baseline energy snapshot, like from 1 to 10, with your focus, your mood, stamina, strength, and then revisit that list in 3 months to see what has changed. For me, one of my goals was to get stronger. I mean, I had lost weight, looking at my body composition, looking at my labs and how I was feeling. I lost to 60 pounds, but I still didn't feel like I was as strong as I needed to be. So one of my goals this last year was to get stronger, fueling my body better, getting more protein in, reducing inflammation, reducing stress levels, and then reshaping how my body looks. Even though I lost all this weight a few years ago, I wanted my body composition to shift towards more muscle, because I understand that muscle equals longevity. Muscle, it means your metabolism is also better. So now I've shifted from having that bulgy, bloating stomach to more flatter abdominal area, which also reduces your risk for prediabetes, diabetes, not just to have a flat sculpted stomach, which is nice, but the truth is, as we start to gain that belly fat, it just increases your risk for more chronic conditions down the line. So beyond numbers, track how often you say can't versus I did. Ladies, you can do this as long as you understand that this is not something that's going to happen overnight. I'll often get a question like, man, how did you lose all of this weight? How did you get a flat stomach? How are you so toned? This didn't happen overnight. This was consistency, reshaping the narrative, reshaping my mindset, not reaching for just tools like medication or jumping on another diet. It's about shifting my mindset to say, I want to be healthy. I want to have energy. I want to be able to manage stress. I want to be able to reduce inflammation. Shifting that mindset and focusing on being healthier, that's when the weight starts to come off. That's when your body composition starts to change. And it starts to kind of align. Everything starts to align because everything kind of starts to fall into place. So your past isn't a sentence. It's a story. Maybe you had children and you have belly fat from that, or you're in menopause and your hormones have shifted, or maybe you've gotten to a point where you're not making those hormones anymore. Your body is the living archive of everything you've survived. So don't be ashamed of that. But you can still become the woman that you are meant to be. You can rewrite the first chapters, but you can't rewrite what's in the past, but you can decide the next ones. You can decide the next ones. If this conversation stirred something in you, if you're ready to see what your body's trying to tell you, book a 60-minute clarity session with me. It's a free one-on-one time with me, with you and I. We'll look at your inflammatory patterns, hormone health, and energy blueprint. Then we can start to design your first steps towards the second half of life that feels powerful, not fearful, full of energy. Okay. So the links are all in the show notes, the cheat sheets, the clarity session. So next week, we'll talk about the second pillar of hormone harmony, which is blood sugar mastery, another important thing for women in midlife for your energy, focus, and fat loss. Okay, ladies, stay elevated, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Elevated Women's Podcast. If today's episode resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend who needs this conversation too. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start thriving, head over to our website. It's listed in the show notes to learn more about our Elevated Women's Coaching Program. That's where we take these conversations deeper and create a more personalized plan for your hormones, your weight, energy, and more. Check out our show notes. I've linked free tools and cheat sheets to help you get started right away. For more daily tips and inspiration, come hang out with me on Instagram at The Elevated Woman Coach. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Thriving Over 40 with Dr. Akindipe. Until next time, stay elevated.